Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jake Milham and joined by my second better half, ? Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, how we feeling this Sunday?
How many halves do you have, Jacob?
I think a person can only have two, but I've been told I'm a people pleaser at times, so I'm sure I could find a way to make myself 1.5 persons.
All right, well, just be careful. Somebody else shows up and suddenly you're two people, and then what do you do?
Listen, I'm not prepared that far in ahead. I really haven't. I'm taking things one game at a time, just like all Royals fans out there should be.
That's absolutely what's happening. No one is panicking after each individual loss and celebrating a World Series victory after each individual win.
Yeah, no one would do that.
No.
Well,
you might
want to go check the comments on royalsreview.com to see what is actually going on, at least on that end of the Royals fan base. So if y'all are unaware, go check out royalsreview.com for all the best news, analysis, and commentary on all things Kansas City Royals. You could also create an account there, like and comment on our stories, create your own stories. Jeremy and I have talked about that a couple of times. That's how we got our starts with the sites, or just for me and writing in general. And it's a good time over there. We give each other shit, but it's pretty all right, if I do say so myself.
And you do. I heard you right now.
Whoa, man! Look at me! Look at me go! It's a Sunday, and I haven't lost a single beat. All right, so we are, as we talk about people not overreacting and things like that, I will say we are going to spend a good amount of the episode talking about Saturday night's game. We are recording this ahead of Sunday first pitch. We are like 58 minutes away from first pitch in Angel Stadium, so please do keep that in mind. Jeremy, I'll set the stage, but then I want to hear your thoughts on Cole Ragans. So the Royals snapped their 3-game winning streak Saturday night with a 9-3 loss against the Angels, their second largest margin of defeat this season. They trailed early. Cole Ragans, he had a rough second and third innings, but that seventh inning really just busted things wide open after the Royals had cut the deficit to 5-3. Ragans, he was charged with 7 runs in 6 1/3 innings, including 2 runs after he exited. And the 9 runs the Royals pitchers allowed matched their second most in a game this season. So the Royals are facing off against the Angels. I think that they could get a third win today with Seth Lugo on the mound. But Jeremy, I want to talk about yesterday's starting pitcher. I want to hear your thoughts on Cole Ragans.
So here's the thing. Has Cole Ragans had a couple of bad starts this year now? Yes. He does not yet have the consistency that maybe you're looking from like a MVP, Cy Young, Hall of Fame level ace. However, he's pitched so well outside of those games that I think he still qualifies as an ace. Certainly, if I'm on another team, I don't want to be facing him. He was not good last night. I haven't been able to dig into the video or into the advanced statistics, so I'm not sure what happened other than he was not striking guys out. And he strikes a lot of guys out. He'll give up some hard hit balls, but he'll also get so many strikeouts that it almost doesn't matter. And he just didn't have any strikeouts last night through like the first 3 innings or something. He only finished the night with 3 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the big thing from last night isn't even Cole Ragans' performance, I don't think. It is the fact that Matt Quatraro, who I have defended and even lauded all season long for what I believe to be his excellent managerial skills, both, in the clubhouse where guys all seem to be rowing in the same direction, but also on the field with the tactical stuff where, Will Smith isn't allowed to keep blowing games just because he's the veteran who was given the closer title. Hunter Renfroe wasn't allowed to keep batting high in the lineup because he got a big contract. He's managed in a way that lets the team win games kind of regardless of veteran or payroll status, which is most of what you can ask for, I think. But last night, his team down 5-3, and the Royals had scored 2 runs in the last 2 innings, and they'd gotten to Tyler Anderson, got him out of the game. We're into the Angels bullpen, which has not been good this year. And a comeback seemed like a real possibility.
It did.
And in the bottom of the 7th, and I believe I saw he had 89 pitches entering the inning and had not pitched well all night, was not getting his strikeouts, was still giving up hard hit balls. Cole Ragans was sent back out. And that move is not defensible to me.
Yeah.
Because, and the only defense I think you can offer is, well, maybe some guy, the bullpen seems well rested, but maybe some guys who on the outside we assume are ready to go were dealing with some nagging injuries or were otherwise unable to go for whatever reason last night. And we don't know those kinds of things. Like if somebody shows up, James MacArthur shows up and he's sick, they're not going to tell us. They don't want to give that away.
Yeah, exactly.
So they seemed to have no relievers available. Nick Anderson was the person who started warming up behind Cole Ragans as he entered the 7th inning. Now, Nick Anderson hasn't been terrible for the Royals this year. He had a decent ERA going into last night. But here's the thing about Nick Anderson, despite his 9 straight scoreless appearances before his game against the Brewers earlier this week, he does not strike guys out. Doesn't happen. So if I'm going to pitch Nick Anderson, I want him coming in with a fresh inning. And instead what we got was Cole Ragans coming back out there, immediately giving up 2 singles, then a sacrifice bunt to put runners at second and third with 1 out.
Yep.
And then Nick Anderson comes out, and what you need in that situation more than anything is a strikeout.
Mm-hmm. And
he's not a strikeout pitcher. The Royals generally haven't been a strikeout pitching team this year, which has led to some concern about, are they really as good as their stats say they are, which I think is understandable. I think that some of those strikeouts are going to show up. Seth Lugo wasn't striking guys out at all early on, and he has struck out quite a few more in his last few starts. Cole Ragans obviously gets his strikeouts. I think James MacArthur can get his strikeouts. John Schreiber is going to get his strikeouts. They just haven't necessarily been there yet. As the summer heats up, I think the ball's going to spin a little bit better. They're going to get them. So I'm not super concerned about that. But Nick Anderson isn't really a super strikeout guy, or at least hasn't been so far this year. So you bring him out, second and third, 1 out, and he gets the ground ball right at Michael Garcia. The runners have to freeze. And it's like, oh my gosh, they can get out of this. And he pitches around Taylor Ward, who is by far the best hitter in the Angels lineup. So that's fine. But then he gets Kevin Pillar, who got cut from the White Sox because he was so bad, and the White Sox were like, you're so bad, we don't even want you.
Crazy to think.
And the Angels picked him up because they just need bodies because they have so many injuries. And Pillar gets kind of a weak liner, but a line drive into right field for a 2 RBI double. And that was pretty much the nail in the coffin for the Royals' opportunities to win that game. Now, could runs have been given up even if a reliever was gone to straight at the beginning of the inning, even if he went to John Schreiber at the beginning of the inning? Yeah, it could happen. Could the Royals have failed to score any more runs, even if no runs had been given up? Yeah, that could have happened. But in a game, and I saw someone tell me, he's got to save his best relievers for tomorrow because with Seth Lugo on the mound, they'll probably be close, and you want to have your good relievers for that. I'm like, well, maybe they'll blow them out tomorrow. You don't need your good relievers tomorrow, even in a win.
Yeah.
You got to try and win this game. We don't know what happened with the relievers or who was available and who wasn't, but we do know that sending Cole Ragans back out for the 7th inning when he didn't have it, when he was at the end of his pitch limit, it was a bad call. Now, maybe that's not Q's fault. Maybe he didn't have the options available to him. And then that's on JJ Picola. As I kind of wrote in the recap last night, the team is playing well. They're winning games. They need maximum support. They're not perfect. They need their maximum support from their manager and from their front office team. And if they just don't have any relievers that are ready, and let's look at how many high leverage guys they've got, right? You don't want to pitch Matt Sauer in that situation. Right. You are a little bit wary of pitching Will Smith. You're a little bit wary of pitching Nick Anderson. You're a little bit wary of pitching Chris Stratton. So that leaves you kind of with Schreiber, with Zerpa, with MacArthur. And there's one more reliever I'm forgetting right now.
Anderson, Duffy, MacArthur, Sauer, Schreiber, Smith, Stratton, and Zerpa.
Well, I didn't hear a name I didn't think of there, so maybe I can't count. Anyway, so but you've got kind of three guys, and three guys was good enough earlier this year when the starting rotation was giving you a quality start every time out.
Yeah.
But that was never sustainable. It hasn't been sustained. So the front office needs to lengthen that bullpen. And the bullpen, as we talked about, is one area where they have a ton of minor league depth. Walter Pennington was an opener last night and pitched 4 perfect innings with 6 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Will Klein has been sick. Sam Long, who has been up and down in the majors for 3 years before this and not been great, looks really good in AAA. And maybe he's another guy that the team has fixed. So we've got a lot of guys down there that you would like to see get some chances. Maybe they can become some frontline relievers. And instead, we're sitting here going, well, Matt Sauer could only pitch in an emergency or when the game is out of hand. He's just, I can understand, like, yeah, he's talented. He looks like he could be a really good pitcher in the future, but he's not now. And the Royals are trying to win now.
Yeah.
So to my thinking, at this point, the Royals the front office needs to do something to fill out this bullpen a little bit, to give themselves some more fleet. Now, Nick Anderson, he has options.
He does.
And he's not been dominant. And what we need is another dominant reliever. We need to maybe take a little bit of a risk, demote him, and you can always call him back up. That's the thing, is you're not losing him. If none of those guys work out, you could demote him, call him back up, and say, well, those guys weren't any better. At least we still have Nick Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready to demote him, and I'm ready to either trade Sauer back to the Yankees or offer him back to the Yankees, and they could decline. They could say, you know what, keep him. We don't care. That could happen. Or you could try and make a trade to keep him and then demote him to the minor leagues. That's the moves I would make immediately. Those two guys need to be off this roster, and we need to see 2 of Will Klein, Walter Pennington, Sam Long.
I absolutely agree that some bullpen moves do need to happen this week, but there's one thing that I can't quite move on from. So I'm looking at the bullpen usage over the last 7 games is what it's looking like. So dating back to the series finale against the Texas Rangers. So let's see here. So James McArthur, he pitched on back-to-back nights once in that span, where he had that 30-pitch outing against the Brewers and then came in relief and had that 3-pitch outing against the Brewers the very next day.
Yep. And did not pitch Friday night to close that game. They gave that save to Stratton, I believe. Was it Stratton or Schreiber? I forget.
I want to say it was Schreiber. It
was not McArthur.
Yeah, it was not McArthur. He hasn't pitched against the Angels at all yet.
Yeah.
And then Angel Zerpa, he pitched on back-to-back nights on the 7th and the 8th as well with McArthur. So I truly think that this is something with the coaches and with Q, that they need to identify some of these guys that they can trust to go out there on back-to-back nights. That not everyone needs a day of rest in between their bullpen appearances. It's their actions are saying that they don't trust any of the relievers to do that, at least their recent actions.
Yeah.
And you have guys like, John Schreiber. We'll go 2 days without seeing him. Meanwhile, we went 4 games without seeing Matt Sauer. Like, he didn't pitch at all in the Milwaukee Brewers series. He pitched in the series opener against the Angels. And McArthur, like we said, he's on a 3-game absence right now. So is Angel Zerpa. He's on a 3-game absence right now. Like, it's just too consistent of an issue to say, okay, listen, I get it. These are veteran guys. You want to manage their workload ahead of the dog days of the season, but we're not going to know unless we try.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
I can see what you're saying. I guess my bigger concern goes back to the roster construction of, all right, if you don't think those guys can go back to back on a regular basis, like you don't want them pitching relievers, really speaking, don't go more than 3 out of 4 nights. They don't go 3 nights in a row. But you'll see go back to back, day off, back to back again sometimes. But usually even 3 out of 5 is like kind of the tops.
Yeah.
But if they don't even want to go back to back once with these guys, then that's maybe they might know something we don't know as far as how relievers bounce back in those kinds of situations in general, or about these guys specifically. Maybe they know something there. But if that's the case, then they still need to upgrade the roster to make that work.
Yes.
We cannot have if you can't have your relievers going out on a regular basis, as we've come to believe it to be in the past few years, then we need to have more relievers that we can trust.
Yeah. And I am curious, there's a few different things going on here. How does Alec Marsh's comeback game, like how did that throw things off at all? I didn't realize this against the Brewers, but everyone except for Sauer and Schreiber pitched in that game. That did not cross my mind.
The last Brewers game?
Yeah, the series finale against them. And I don't think it should have. I bet you that had an effect on how they approached things in the series opener against the Angels. Yeah. But I don't think it should have a ripple effect, heading into the series finale against the Angels.
No, it would definitely have an effect on Thursday night's game. It might have a small effect on Friday night's game. It should have no effect on Saturday's game, and it should have no effect on Sunday's game.
Yeah.
But it sure seems like it had an effect on last night's game. Now, Michael Wacha, and a lot of people took issue with this, and I don't agree with that. Michael Wacha was asked to go out for a seventh inning after pitching 6 strong and kind of got into some trouble. But they had a huge lead at that point, and Michael Wacha's pitch count was much lower.
Yeah.
So, that made sense to me. That's not a close game. And as you said, they just had really hammered their bullpen the day before. So go ahead and see if you can steal an inning with your starter.
Mm-hmm.
But last night, was not a game to steal an inning with your starter who hadn't pitched well, and the game was close.
So I will play devil's advocate for this moment, Jeremy, because I did see and hear some folks, just chatting with a couple of folks after last night's game, talk about hey, I was okay with Q sending Ragans back out there for the 7th because he looked better as the game went along. It did look like Ragans settled down a little bit. Like I said, all of his scoring damage was done in the 2nd and 3rd inning heading into that 7th. And he finally struck out a guy later on in that scoreless stretch. But my point being is this is that a good reason to hey, he's getting better. He's not at his pitch count that we set for him heading into tonight's game. Let's keep on giving him work, and he's looking better. You know what I mean?
Because it was a close game, the fact that he'd looked better for 3 innings isn't enough. He needed to look much better for 3 innings and or be much further from his pitch limit.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going in there and he's only thrown 70 pitches as he enters the 7th inning, all right, that makes sense to me. 89 pitches? No. If he'd struck out, 6 guys in the last 3 innings and he'd gotten them all in order, okay, maybe. But he was giving up some scattered hits and some base runners still. He just wasn't letting them score. So it was not like he suddenly turned back into his dominant self. He was just like, okay, I'm getting through now. And now he's been just getting through, and now he's tired. And the game is getting close. The tension is ratcheting back up.
Yeah, I truly think there has to be something behind the scenes that we're not going to see in the wire. We're not going to see on social media. Nothing like that. If we were in a bigger market with some more coverage, maybe we would hear some rumblings or some rumors. But that doesn't happen in Kansas City, so we don't have that luxury here. All right, so Jeremy, all in all, Royals are 2-1 against the Angels so far. They're going for the 3-1 series win, which I think would be great. I know the Angels aren't all that in a bag of chips, but they're still a baseball team. And as we saw last night, you can lose against any team on any given night.
Sure.
The
thing, and after I get over my rant a little bit, is it's hard to sweep a 4-game series. It's hard to do, even against a bad team. So if they take 3 out of 4, and this is kind of where we've been all year, right? Well, if they just win win a couple more here, we're going to feel good again. They lose one and we're like, oh, no, why would you do that? And then they win a couple, we're like, oh, it's fine. And we've been kind of going through that cycle all year. And that's why I keep sitting down like I did over the weekend and like looking at the overall numbers and being like, oh, hey, their run differential for the entire season is really good. Oh, hey, their playoff odds are still really good. Like, I wasn't just talking about everybody else when I was talking about like letting one loss kind of get to you. I'm talking about myself as well. Like, it watched so many losing teams over the past few years, and before the 13, 14, 15 teams, so many losing teams before that for some of us, that I think it's kind of natural to just think, here comes all the losses. But that's not what this team has been. And so that's why I want to keep pulling back and looking at that bigger picture and being like, listen, this loss sucks. I hate it. It doesn't feel good. Doesn't make me happy. But it isn't season ending. And they could win tomorrow and everything will be fine again. So try not to panic.
Let me give you some context here, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So as we sit here today, the Royals are 24-17. All right, 7 games above 500 ain't too bad. It's better than most teams out there. They're currently tied for second place in the American League Central, only a half game behind the Guardians, who have lost 3 straight. Which I'll hit a pause on that right there. Do you think that was kind of fueling some frustration from fans, is the fact that, oh, hey, the Twins and the Guardians lost. If the Royals win tonight against the Angels, they'll finally move into first place. Do you think like that was fueling some of the frustration?
For some fans, certainly. I actually haven't been paying attention to the standings that much, so I didn't actually know that. I do want to also throw out there, though, that the 8 games over 500 they were before last night's game was the first time that had happened since 16. So and that's a lot of years, and I get it. There wasn't a whole lot of winning in the years between, but it's a good company at least. I get it. 2016. Go ahead. And that's what I'm trying to just get at is like 2016 they finished 500, but that team was the team that had just won the World Series the year before. They had some bad injuries. If Moustakas and Gordon don't get injured early in that year, it's probably a completely different year. And you can argue that the Royals don't have a lot of depth right now. If they get a big injury like that, it will sink their season. But I will take that, a 20-team Royals over, and honestly, a 2015 Royals, because the 2015 Royals just didn't have the big injury, over what we've seen for the years since 16.
Well, so let's think about this. So their current record, we're through 41 games. Okay, so take that into consideration, listeners. We are through more than a quarter of the season. We're not looking at small samples or nothing like that. Maybe on an individual basis, but this team is what this team is right now.
Yep.
This is the 5th best start through 41 games in franchise history. All right. And this is the best one since 2015, where they were 27-14. All right. Plus, on top of that, they are 12 games better than they were through 41 games last season when they were 12-29. All right. That's the biggest improvement of any team in the majors. This team is trending in the right direction. We just have to kind of trust the process.
Can I just pause for a moment and point out that like 24-17 feels so much worse than 27-14, but it's not. It's not that much worse. That's 3 games. And their Pythagorean record, I think, would say that they should have won 26 or 27 anyway.
Mm-hmm. And it is there's so many like good things still on the horizon. Okay, so if they win today, for example, they would win back-to-back series. Okay, that was something that didn't happen at all in 2023, if I'm recalling correctly.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, and just think, this would be the second time this year that they have done that. Okay, they had that 7-0 homestand against the White Sox and Astros, and they've been alternating win-loss ever since. I don't know. It's hard to be bagging on this team as a whole, in my opinion. There are absolutely individuals that should not be above reproach simply because of the team's performance. Okay, guys like Nelson, I'll bag on him right now. Nelson Velasquez. All right, this lineup is playing despite him being in it more often than not. All right, he's in the 4 hole today against the Angels, which I do not understand. I get it. He looked good last night, but it doesn't change what he's done before. Jeremy, like let's just summarize all this. How are you feeling? Like, are you trusting that this is a winning team overall? Are they going to finish above 500 finally?
That is an interesting question. How am I feeling? Because the answer is I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling frustrated. Okay. I can see the offensive aptitude or inconsistency. That's the word I really want. The offensive inconsistency as well as anyone else. And I was watching last night's loss, same as everyone else. But what I feel, I think doesn't matter. I think my feelings are for lack of a better word, incorrect in this instance.
Okay.
I think my feelings are coming from a place I've watched this team lose so many games and I'm scared it's going to happen again. But I don't think that's real. I think that this team is if I stop and take emotions out of it for a minute, and maybe I could put emotions back in it if they win today, because that's what it is my emotions are kind of swinging with the wins and losses right now. But if I take my emotion out of it and I look at the facts as I presented them in my article Saturday, this is a team that by some measures has been unlucky as much as it's been inconsistent.
Right.
They could have won more games than this. And so you wonder when they're just going to go on another hot streak. And one thing I kind of want to throw out there that's only kind of tangentially related, but that has been weighing on my mind, is I'm seeing a lot of people say that their strength of schedule is weak, and that they've only played bad teams and blah, 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 blah. So that's when I go to the Baseball Reference simple rating system, which takes into account strength of schedule and run differential on an individual game basis to determine how good are you. Mm-hmm. The Royals, when I looked Friday morning, Friday afternoon, were third best in MLB by the simple rating system. Ooh, so I don't care that some other site says they had the 14th easiest schedule so far in the American League, because the simple rating system says that they're playing the tough teams at least close and they're crushing the bad teams.
Yeah.
And that's what you're supposed to do. And I get it. You'd like to see them winning some more series against the good teams. Sure, absolutely. But you're not always going to win those series against the good teams. And that's another thing, that this is a young team. This is a team that can grow and maybe win more of those games later this year than they are right now. So that's a thing to look forward to as well. If you're out here and you want to say, as somebody was telling me, that the Royals crushing the Angels didn't matter because the Angels run differential was bad. Well, if that doesn't matter because the Angels run differential is bad, then what matters is the Royals run differential is great. So they're a good team, right?
Yeah. We can poke holes in a lot of things between you and me, Jeremy.
Yeah. This is not a perfect team. This is not the best team in the AL. That's probably the Orioles. It's not the best team in baseball. That's either the Orioles or the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. But they're a good team.
Yes.
This is a good team. Not a great team, but a good team. And a good team, with the way the playoff stuff is set up right now, that's good enough to get you to the playoffs. And anything can happen once you're in the playoffs, unless you're the Twins.
Unless you're them, then the universe is against you.
Yeah.
I am going to be curious to see how the next 2 months of baseball goes, because with those, you talk about those expanded playoffs, that's going to affect how teams make roster decisions later and later into the season.
Is it?
I think it is. There's going to be less sellers and there's going to be more buyers.
That's what everyone says. It has not, to my understanding, worked out that way so far.
Okay.
A lot of teams that are on the bubble just choose to go, well, the expanded playoffs are the expanded playoffs. If we make it, we make it. If not, well, let's just go ahead and sell off a couple pieces and strengthen our roster for next year and try and sell some more tickets for next season. I'm not sure it's worked out that way. I think because everyone thought, well, it'll be a seller's market now because more teams will be in competition. But we look at the trade hauls that teams were getting for their 1-year rentals last year, and they weren't significantly better than they had been for the few years before that.
Right.
I do think that if the Royals are still competitive as the year goes on, I do think they're going to be aggressive. We've talked about how they had kind of called about Luis Arias and found out that, yeah, we're not going to get him because the Padres are already, deep on that path. But I think that means that they're seriously out there looking at other players that we haven't heard about yet that they're going to try and get. I think they can tell as well as anyone that this outfield is not sustained. Like if they don't fix the outfield, it could kill them, kill their chances before the end of this year. So they got to do something there. I really feel like they were aggressive in the offseason, and they don't appear to have stopped being aggressive now that the regular season has started.
Very true. Very true. All right, Jeremy, let's I don't want to dwell too much more on Saturday's loss because they're moving on to Sunday.
You know what?
Then after that, they will be moving on up to Seattle, where it will we'll have the 3, 4, and 5 guys in the rotation: Singer, Waka, and Marsh. This is a pretty solid.
Which one's the 3? Which one's the 4? And which one's the 5?
Listen, I would I still think that Singer is 3. I would put Waka at the 5, and I'd put Marsh at 4.
I see. I think for me, Marsh is 3.
Really?
Also, we don't want to dwell on last night's loss. You want to dwell on today's Seth Lugo, AL leading ERA, taking the mound for the Kansas City Royals?
Of course, because it is Seth Lugo has been looking like the guy that, and I wasn't completely sold on the Royals adding him. I was like, I don't know, he's a little older. He hasn't been a starter nearly as long, but he's proven everyone wrong. His 9th start and only the 73rd of his career, but meanwhile, this guy is leading the AL in ERA, excuse me. And every time he goes to the mound, I expect the Royals to win. Like, that's how good he is.
Yeah, I know that there's some question about how sustainable that is, and I don't think you look at any pitcher other than, peak Clayton Kershaw, something like that, and think, yeah, a 1.5-ish ERA is absolutely sustainable. But like, would we all be excited if Seth Lugo finished the year with like a 2.5 ERA or a 3 ERA? I think we would. I think we would be very excited about that. And that seems like that you could take some aggression there and fall to those. And yeah, I think we'd still be okay.
I would be just fine. Because if I'm looking at these numbers right, since the start of the 2020 season, he's pitched to a 3.09 ERA in 34 starts.
Yeah, that'll work.
That I will definitely take that. Yeah, I was doing a little bit more looking. The 6th best mark in Major League Baseball.
Woo!
So that
the Royals are paying him $15 million.
Yeah.
Verlander's getting what, 50?
And at least Lugo's available.
Whoa!
Listen, I was thinking about this. Like, I could not stand the Tigers growing up when I was first getting into watching baseball, because like that was the peak of Verlander and Scherzer in the same rotation in Detroit. And that was tough. But man, I don't think people appreciate Verlander's career enough because he's been relatively healthy. And his body's starting to break down on him with age, but like he's at that age you expect his body to break down. You know what I mean?
40.
Yeah.
My body's breaking down on me. I'm pushing 40. My body's breaking down on me, and I haven't pitched thousands of innings of Major League Baseball.
True. Yeah, no, Seth Lugo is everything the Royals needed and more, and his arts are a big reason why the Royals are where they are right now. 8 starts, a 5-1 record. Like that just shows you how impactful he is in the rotation, at least. I am moving on quickly to Seattle though.
Sure, let's do it.
Because I think that's going to be another. It's going to be a good watermark series. I think it's a 3-game set, and it'll be the very, very tail end before the Royals come home. They have a day off after they finish off against the Mariners. Like, how much do they have left in the tank? It's gonna prove a few more things to me, at least, about this roster. But I mean, if I'm looking at this correctly, I think the Royals have a good chance to be sitting at 27-18, heading back into Kansas City, starting off that Friday series against who are they playing against again? The Athletics. That's right.
Ooh,
I know. Scary.
They're not as bad as they were last year, unfortunately.
No. Yeah, people don't be sleeping on the Athletics now. Before they start selling off pieces like it's a goddamn 5 and dime, they're pretty solid. I would say. Jeremy, before we get on to Spotify Q&As and our reviews, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I just want people, like, I understand the emotions. I do, because I'm feeling them too. I promise you. Yeah. I am feeling these same emotions. Just try and take a deep breath. Take a step back. Remember that, like, they're still winning. And if they don't make the playoffs this year, that isn't the end of the world. The goal this year, after losing more than 100 games last year, after tying the franchise record for losses in a season last year, all we all asked for was for them to play 500 ball. They're well on their way to playing 500 ball. The fact that they've played so well makes us disappointed that 500 ball might be their ceiling. I don't think it is, but, like, if you feel that way, why are you disappointed? That's all we asked for.
And the front office and the coaches are making that happen, at least.
Yeah. Do they? I mean, the front office and the coaches need to do more. Like I said, I want to start seeing some roster movement on the guys who are not getting it done to support the guys who are getting it done a little bit better.
Yeah.
I want some outfield bat help, and I want some relief pitching help, but they're doing okay for where they are so far this season.
And exactly. Couldn't agree more. Your comment about 500 ball reminded me of this. Right now, the Royals have a 500 record on the road, which as much as we were talking about how well and easy they were winning in Kauffman Stadium, where they are 15-8. Them being, or possibly being, above 500 by the time you're listening to this, being 500 on the road is promising to me, because if you can go on the road away from home and still win for the most part, that bodes well across the entire season. Jeremy, any closing comments?
No, I already did that.
Hey, I wanted to make sure.
I mean, we can do this all day where you say, hey, Jeremy, any closing comments? And I come up with something else to say. And then you go, hey, Jeremy, any closing comment? And then I'll do that all day if you want.
There's a reason why it's any closing comments. All right. It is plural. Okay. No, but let's go and get to our Spotify Q&A. So if y'all are listening to us for the first time, thank you for joining us. But if you're listening to us away from Spot, head on over to that platform where you can check out our polls and Q&As. And on the last full-length episode, I asked y'all, how are you feeling about MacArthur as the Royals' 9th inning guy after Tuesday? I kind of want to remove the closer moniker from him for a time being, okay? But he is going to be the high-leverage 9th inning guy. I think that's, I don't know. I kept on calling him the closer, and folks were getting stuck on that. So, all right, we'll just call him the 9th inning guy. He's the last guy you want to see out of the bullpen. Nash fan Sam says, I'd keep trying others. Maybe he can try again later. Can we try Carlos Hernandez when he is back?
No.
I'm kind of out on that. We already tried that experiment after Aroldis Chapman was traded away.
Yeah.
He had a good, 2-3 weeks, I think, and then
Carlos Hernandez needs to prove himself again in middle relief after his meltdown at the end of last year and after his injury before I'm letting him try to close games again.
I like that. Luke 57 says, glad to see him get back out there, especially being thrown into the fire. I still believe in him. Ain't gonna be perfect every time. And that's what we talked about, Jeremy.
Yep.
Ginger620 says, I still trust him. A few bad outings haven't outweighed the several good ones we've seen since last year's rebound. And yeah, that's, again, like that is what we were talking about. On the whole, I think he's still batting like above 85% for like good, solid shutdown outings.
Why is our closer batting?
Well, because we're in the National League now. Okay.
Oh.
I didn't know if you knew that. We're realigning.
Okay.
It's a damn shame.
National League has a designated hitter now too, right?
All right, Jeremy, you got me there. I can't coke and joke my way out of that one. Royal Rupert says, feeling good. He is the best option for the 9th. And lastly, Aaron Bailey says the leash is getting shorter, but give him time. So, sounds like our listeners out there are pretty even keeled when it comes to how we're feeling about MacArthur. And then also, I thought this was interesting, Jeremy. So on that same episode, I asked them how many games must Kansas City win in LA this weekend? Not will or might, must they win? And 9 out of 15 votes are for 3. 3 out of 15 are for 2, and then 3 out of 15 are for 4. So most of our listenership thinks that they win today, or that they must win today.
I'd like them to win today. I would certainly feel better if they win today. But to say they must win today when they have a winning record early in May, that feels like that feels like a lot. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit and give them some space.
You know what? That's pretty good on that point. But if you want to gripe or laud the team as it happens, go check out today's game thread on royalsreview.com. Or like Jeremy was talking about with his recaps, you can check out each game has a recap on royalsreview.com. You talk about the game, what you did and didn't like, and just interact with other Royals fans. So, Jeremy, I'm not going to ask you for any closing comments here, okay? We're moving on past that.
I'm going to actually give you one anyway.
Oh, my gosh. I saw
this tweet that for the first time all season, Mookie Betts is not the sole leader in WAR. He is tied with somebody else. I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count.
It's Bobby Witt Jr.
Bobby Witt Jr.
Let's go.
In MLB, in WAR, with 2.8.
Wow.
Famously an MVP candidate. I think he's won it. Ohtani has won it. People are talking. Soto's won it. He's 5th. Henderson is being talked about as an MVP candidate. Bobby Witt Jr. is a true MVP candidate, y'all. Just remember that when you're thinking about, is this team any good? Well, they have an MVP candidate.
Pretty solid, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good start.
Yep. And that is that's all we're going to leave it at, because I think we might jinx Bobby if we talk about it anymore. Jeremy, do you want to go and start us off for Royals reviews?
Sure. So I am back in Georgia for Mother's Day. I'm going to see if I can get my mom to join me for my vibes check after today's game.
Ooh, I like it.
Over on TikTok. Yes, I've actually been uploading videos there again.
Yes.
If you haven't been checking them out. Jacob, you do an amazing job, just like with a full breakdown. I just try to do like a minute of vibes and just focus on one little thing real quick over on TikTok. So it's a different thing. I definitely like listen to Jacob. I certainly do, even when I watch the games. So don't do just one or the other. Do both. You know, it's not that much time.
Why not both?
Anyway, so I'm here in Georgia visiting my mom for Mother's Day, and we were watching Gravity Falls last night, which is a rewatch for me. It's a watch for her. It's a cartoon, 2 seasons over on Disney Plus, which is it's fantastic television. I mean, it's on Disney, it's a cartoon, so is it aimed at kids? A little bit, but it's kind of aimed at like tweens, young adult, more than it is. It's not like, Winnie the Pooh little kid stuff. It's got some intelligence and some wit to it. It's very fun. It's very clever. As I said, I've watched it before. I think this is my 3rd time watching it. It's one of my favorite shows, and I absolutely recommend it for any of you out there who want to watch, something a little bit lighthearted, a little bit goofy, but also a little bit witty. If you've got some tweens in your life, then watch it with them. I think you'll have a great time.
Hey, I like it. First off, I didn't realize Gravity Falls only had 2 seasons. Like
Yeah,
it was a pretty popular show.
it was one of those shows where the writers had a plot, a story that they wanted to do, that was going to be, and it was 2 seasons long. It covers one summer vacation. When asked if they'd ever do like a sequel series, he says maybe, but there's no plans. So I don't know if that'll ever happen. I'm not holding my breath, but the 2 seasons is like, yeah, this tells the story and then the story ends, and it's sad when a story ends, but it's better than, stretching it out forever for no real reason sometimes.
Hey, I couldn't agree more. And I think, weren't you talking about something about greenlighting more original or like non-IP projects the other day?
Over on Twitter, I was talking about that. They announced there's going to be a Gollum movie, because they own, I don't know who even has it now. Has the Lord of the Rings, the rights to Lord of the Rings, and the Lord of the Rings movies did bonkers money, and so they just want to milk that IP. There's only so much you can do in that universe with the stuff that's been written. So they're like, well, there's a little bit of a appendix story about Gollum's life, kind of in between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So I guess they're going to write a movie about that. And I'm just like, I'm not interested. The Hobbit wasn't good. I don't have good feelings about this. It feels like a cash grab based on familiarity with the property. So I loved Lord of the Rings. I'm glad that happened, but it's like, let it be. Let's move on and do something else now. I'm just a little bit frustrated that every movie seems like it has to be tied into something that already exists. And it's funny because people have been complaining about this. My college freshman English paper was about this subject 20 years ago. And I, at the time I wrote that it wasn't a big deal, but it's been 20 years and we're still doing this, and I feel like it's getting worse.
It is.
So now it does seem like a big deal to me, but maybe I'm just old.
I mean, why not both? Why not both, Jeremy? Moving on, just my review real quick. So for you longtime listeners out there, you know that my mom passed a few years back. This is our third Mother's Day without her being here. And I just wanted, it sounds silly to say this, I wanted to quote unquote review my wife, Honey, who we don't have any kids of our own. We've had troubles in that area. But I do get to see her be a godmother and just a caring being, just to people in our life, to our dogs. Even to me, she's helped me process a lot of things in a manner that I would usually go to my mom about. But she's taken on that mantle for us and a lot of other people in my life. So even if it's not the traditional mother that you might think of, there's a lot more mothers in your life that I'm sure you could sit back and identify. So I mainly want to say thank you to all y'all out there, and happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
All right, Jeremy, I'll give you one more chance. Any closing comments?
Bobby Witt Jr. is a mother of a player.
He is a mother effer of a player. You are absolutely right. All right, Jeremy, let's go and get on out of here so we can watch the game. Go join us over at royalsreview.com in the game thread if you want to chat about the game while it's happening, or go support all the great work that is going on over there in between every single game. And Jeremy has a banger of a piece coming out on Saturday. No pressure, buddy. No pressure.
You were not prepared for this one.
I don't think I am, but I'm very much looking forward to it. So keep your eye out on Royals Review on Saturday for Jeremy's piece. Once again, my name is Jacob Milham. He is Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And until next time, oh Royals.